Hey, what's up, YouTube family? I'm designer Malcolm, you know the vibes, and welcome back to another episode of Design Language. We're exploring the origin of Margiela, a story that every true fashion lover needs to know. But before exploring the history of Margiela, I want to plug in the brand new merch collection I just dropped for my channel. If you've enjoyed my channel's content, consider picking up a shirt, coffee mug, or hoodie to show your support. A link to the collection will be in the description below. Please keep in mind this is a limited run, and once we sell out, we will retire these designs, so don't wait. Now, let's not waste any more time and explore fashion's mystery man himself, Martin Margiela.
Perfect.
Chapter 1: The Man Behind the Mystery. Fashion often thrives on flamboyance, personality, and star power, but Martin Margiela chose a different path: complete anonymity. Cloaked in mystery, he revolutionized the industry not with spectacle, but with subtle, radical innovation. Known as the Invisible Man of fashion, Margiela redefined luxury, not as something pristine and unattainable, but as raw, deconstructed, and deeply human. He stripped fashion to its essence, exposing seams, raw hems, and unfinished edges to celebrate authenticity. Through his work, Margiela conveyed that fashion isn't just about aesthetics, it's about ideas, emotions, and challenging the status quo. His vision made fashion less about excess and more about meaning, inviting people to engage with clothing on a deeper, more personal level. Margiela's legacy is one of contradictions. He balanced minimalism with boldness, tradition with rebellion, and fame with obscurity. By blurring the lines between art and fashion, he pushed the boundaries of what clothing could represent. His influence extended beyond his garments. He redefined how fashion was consumed and understood, challenging the industry's obsession with celebrity and branding. Margiela shunned the spotlight, refused interviews, and avoided public appearances, allowing his work to speak for itself. He believed true artistry didn't need a face, forcing the fashion world to focus on craftsmanship rather than personality. Every stitch, every exposed seam, and every unfinished edge told a story, encouraging people to embrace imperfection as a form of modern luxury. What truly set Margiela apart was his radical rethinking of fashion's relationship with time and value. He often reworked vintage garments, deconstructing and reassembling them into something entirely new, challenging the idea that fashion must always look forward. His iconic replica line breathed new life into forgotten pieces, carefully reconstructing them while preserving their history and giving them relevance for today. Margiela's fascination with time, decay, and the beauty of wear starkly contrasted with the industry's fixation on fleeting trends. His work resonated with those who saw fashion as a means of personal expression and cultural commentary, rather than just a symbol of wealth or status. This episode of Design Language takes you into the mind of a designer who defied expectations and created a niche entirely on his own. We'll explore his enigmatic persona, his groundbreaking contributions, and the philosophies that cemented his place in fashion history. From his early days at the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Antwerp to the creation of his eponymous brand, Margiela's career is a testament to artistic integrity and quiet defiance. His signature white label, absent of logos or embellishments, perfectly embodied his ethos, allowing the focus to remain on the craftsmanship. But before we dive in more resounding, let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, Fashion Source, a free weekly editorial that highlights the intersection of fashion, design, culture, and technology. Link in the description. Now, let's journey into the world of Margiela and the mystery man's impact on the fashion world stage. Chapter 2. Early Life and Inspirations, the Spark of Creativity. Born on April 9, 1957, in Genk, Belgium, Martin Margiela grew up in a working-class family of Italian immigrants. His childhood was shaped by the stark industrial landscapes of his hometown, an environment that would later influence his unique aesthetic. The contrast between the raw, utilitarian surroundings and the ornate traditions of his Italian heritage instilled in him an appreciation for opposites: rawness versus refinement, utility versus beauty, concepts that would become central to his work. Even as a child, Margiela was drawn to art and creation. He spent hours sketching, experimenting with found objects, and transforming everyday materials into something unexpected. Whether repurposing fabric scraps into wearable pieces or deconstructing objects to better understand them, his curiosity pushed him to look beyond the obvious and discover beauty in the overlooked. The industrial grit of Genk, juxtaposed with its subtle Belgian charm, shaped Margiela's perception of beauty. He found elegance in utility and poetry in imperfection, two themes defining his career. His love for vintage clothing wasn't just a passing interest, it was an early expression of his belief that garments carry stories and that imperfections only add to their character. Trips to secondhand markets and antique shops became a formative experience, offering him glimpses into the lives of those who had once worn these clothes. This fascination with clothing as a living archive of history and memory later influenced his design philosophy, where every fray and stitch carried meaning. Margiela's early exposure to the art of recycling and reinterpreting materials laid the foundation for his groundbreaking deconstructivist approach, challenging fashion's relentless pursuit of the new. Margiela's formal education at the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Antwerp refined his creative instincts. Studying alongside the influential Antwerp Six, a group of avant-garde designers who would revolutionize Belgian fashion, he absorbed their rebellious spirit and desire to push boundaries. Although he wasn't officially part of the collective, he shared their vision of rethinking fashion's conventions. The Academy's emphasis on precision tailoring and the relationship between form and function left a lasting impact on him. While many of his peers embraced bold prints and exaggerated silhouettes, Margiela gravitated toward minimalism and conceptualism, preferring to let the essence of a garment speak for itself. This quiet defiance of fashion norms set him apart early on and foreshadowed the revolutionary ideas he would bring to the industry. A turning point came in 1984 when Margiela joined Jean-Paul Gaultier's atelier as an assistant designer. Under Gaultier's mentorship, he honed his technical skills and gained a deeper appreciation for craftsmanship and detail. Gaultier's world of theatricality and reinvention exposed Margiela to the idea that fashion could be an experience, something more than just clothing. But while Gaultier embraced excess and flamboyance, Margiela leaned into subtlety and introspection, crafting pieces that invited reflection rather than applause. This apprenticeship sharpened his skills and reinforced his belief that fashion should challenge, provoke, and offer fresh perspectives on beauty. Margiela was also profoundly influenced by avant-garde Japanese designers such as Rei Kawakubo and Yohji Yamamoto. Their rejection of conventional Western ideals of beauty, their embrace of asymmetry, and their celebration of imperfection resonated deeply with him. He was particularly drawn to their interpretation of wabi-sabi, the Japanese philosophy that finds beauty in imperfection and transience. This cross-cultural influence became a defining element of Margiela's work, blending European tailoring with Japanese fashion's architectural and abstract sensibilities. The result was a design language that spoke to those seeking something different from traditional luxury, raw, honest, and thought-provoking. Margiela's early years were defined by an insatiable curiosity and an unwavering desire to challenge convention. From the industrial landscapes of his hometown to the couture ateliers of Paris, each experience shaped his unique perspective on fashion. He would go on to create a brand that blurred the boundaries between art and clothing, forcing the fashion world to rethink what it valued and why. These early influences, steeped in contrast, contradiction, and quiet rebellion, laid the groundwork for a career that would forever redefine the industry. Chapter 3: The Birth of Maison Margiela. The founding of Maison Martin Margiela in 1988 was nothing short of revolutionary. Partnering with Jenny Marins, a forward-thinking entrepreneur who shared his avant-garde vision, Margiela created a brand that stood in stark contrast to the opulence, consumerism, and celebrity-driven culture of the late 1980s. At a time when fashion houses were becoming increasingly focused on personality and spectacle, Margiela chose to step back, allowing his work to speak for itself. His decision to use blank white labels secured by 4 visible stitches, a detail that would become one of the brand's most recognizable signatures, symbolized his commitment to anonymity. It was a radical stance, shifting the focus away from the designer and placing it squarely on the clothes. This anti-branding approach challenged the fashion industry's obsession with status symbols and redefined the relationship between luxury and identity. Maison Margiela's debut collection for Spring-Summer 1989 marked the beginning of a new era. Held in an abandoned playground in Paris's 20th arrondissement, the show was a stark departure from the extravagant productions that had become the norm. Instead of top models, Margiela cast individuals from the streets, each walking through the raw, industrial space in garments that reimagined conventional silhouettes and exposed the hidden workings of clothing, seams, linings, and raw edges. Plastic, repurposed upholstery, and vintage textiles replaced traditional luxury fabrics, creating an atmosphere of disruption and intrigue. Even the invitations, sent out as fabric swatches instead of paper, reflected Margiela's commitment to craftsmanship and tactile experience. His vision of luxury was not about grandeur, but authenticity and imperfection, a stark contrast to the polished excess of the era. Deconstruction became Margiela's signature. By turning garments inside out and exposing traditionally hidden elements, such as seams and unfinished hems, he challenged the fashion world's obsession with flawlessness. His radical approach broke down preconceived notions of beauty, encouraging people to find elegance in rawness and imperfection. A perfect example of this philosophy was his now iconic tabi boots, inspired by the split-toe design of traditional Japanese tabi socks. Initially polarizing, the silhouette quickly gained cult status among fashion insiders, symbolizing innovation and quiet rebellion. The tabi boot encapsulated Margiela's ethos, an exploration of history, culture, and avant-garde execution that defied mainstream appeal but resonated deeply with those seeking something beyond the ordinary. Long before sustainability became a central talking point in fashion, Margiela was already pioneering the idea of upcycling. He sourced materials from flea markets and repurposed discarded garments, turning them into high-fashion pieces that celebrated history and craftsmanship. Whether transforming vintage military jackets into modern outerwear or incorporating antique lace into contemporary silhouettes, his work proved that beauty often lies in the overlooked and forgotten. For Margiela, sustainability wasn't just a trend, but an intrinsic part of his creative process, an exploration of how fashion could be more meaningful and less disposable. His approach encouraged a deeper appreciation for clothing, challenging consumers to rethink their relationship with fashion in a world driven by mass production and fast trends. Another defining aspect of Margiela's early collections was his approach to the runway as an immersive art experience. His unconventional presentations, featuring models carrying their spotlights or walking with veiled faces to obscure their identity, further reinforced his rejection of traditional fashion storytelling. By stripping away the theatrics commonly associated with runway shows, he shifted the focus back to the clothes, forcing audiences to engage with fashion on a deeper, more introspective level. Each show was a carefully curated experience designed to provoke thought and challenge how fashion was perceived. Margiela's quiet revolution was as much about philosophy as design. His insistence on anonymity, his commitment to sustainability, and his relentless subversion of industry norms made him a true outsider who refused to conform to expectations of fame and commercial success. Yet, despite his reluctance to embrace the spotlight, Maison Margiela became one of the most influential fashion houses of its time, attracting those who saw fashion as a commodity, an art form, and a means of self-expression. The birth of Maison Margiela marked not just the creation of a brand, but the beginning of a movement that continues to inspire designers and challenge the boundaries of fashion to this day. Chapter 4: The Radical Runway, Redefining Fashion Shows. Margiela's runway shows were more than just presentations, they were immersive, theatrical experiences that redefined what a fashion show could be. Rejecting the polished catwalks of traditional haute couture, he chose unconventional venues such as playgrounds, abandoned warehouses, and bustling public spaces, turning these everyday environments into unexpected fashion stages. These raw settings reflected his belief that fashion should intersect with real life, breaking down the barriers between high fashion and the everyday world. By staging his shows in unpolished urban spaces, Margiela challenged the idea that luxury had to exist in a rarefied bubble. Instead, he invited audiences to experience fashion in the context of reality, gritty, unpredictable, and deeply human. One of his most memorable shows occurred in a dimly lit parking lot, where guests stood shoulder to shoulder with unsuspecting passers-by. Models emerged from the shadows, wearing garments that challenged traditional silhouettes and expectations. The absence of the usual runway barriers created a rare intimacy between the audience and the clothes. Margiela stripped away the exclusivity of front-row hierarchies and VIP sections, democratizing the experience and allowing fashion to be seen without pretense. Without the usual grandeur, the focus remained entirely on the clothes, raw, experimental, and thought-provoking. His approach forced attendees to engage with fashion personally, making the experience feel tangible and emotionally resonant. One of Margiela's most distinctive choices was to obscure his models' faces with masks, veils, and head coverings. a radical decision that set him apart from his contemporaries. This deliberate anonymization removed the distraction of personality and shifted all attention to the garments themselves. Models became blank canvases, allowing audiences to interpret the clothing without the influence of celebrity or traditional beauty ideals. It was a direct critique of the fashion industry's fixation on faces and branding, reinforcing his belief that the art of fashion should always take precedence over the personalities behind it. This bold move resonated with those who valued individuality and self-expression beyond societal norms, cementing Margiela's reputation as a designer who refused to conform. Community participation was another hallmark of his runway shows, reinforcing his idea that fashion was a collective experience rather than an exclusive privilege. Margiela often invited residents to participate in his shows, sometimes as models, assistants, or performers, blurring the lines between high fashion and everyday life. In one unforgettable show, children interacted with the models on the runway, adding an unplanned spontaneity and authenticity rarely seen in traditional presentations. By involving non-professionals and underrepresented communities, Margiela brought an emotional depth to his shows that felt raw and deeply personal, proving that fashion could be for everyone, not just the elite. Margiela approached his runway productions as opportunities to tell stories, sometimes abstract, often unsettling, but always thought-provoking. Whether through synchronized formations, dramatic lighting that cast eerie shadows, or unexpected soundscapes, every element of his shows was meticulously crafted to evoke emotion and spark conversation. His runway presentations felt more like avant-garde performance art, where movement, sound, and setting played a crucial role as the clothing itself. This groundbreaking approach inspired a new generation of designers, encouraging them to view fashion not just as commerce, but as an immersive art form that could challenge and inspire. In the end, Margiela's runway shows weren't just about showcasing new collections, they were about dismantling the traditional rules of the industry. By obscuring identity, stripping away elitism, and bringing fashion into unexpected spaces, he forever changed how collections were presented and experienced. His influence continues to shape the way designers think about storytelling, presentation, and audience engagement, proving that fashion, at its best, is not just about clothes, but a powerful medium for artistic expression and cultural reflection. Chapter 5: Legacy and Influence. Though Margiela stepped away from his brand in 2009, his philosophy endures. Designers like Demna Gvasalia and Phoebe Philo have embraced his deconstructionist approach, and his influence is palpable in the rise of sustainability and storytelling in contemporary fashion. John Galliano, who took over Maison Margiela in 2014, has continued pushing boundaries, blending theatricality with Margiela's original ethos. Margiela's work anticipated today's focus on upcycling, craftsmanship, and concept-driven design. His belief in challenging norms has inspired countless creatives to prioritize authenticity over conformity. The brand's collections remain a canvas for experimentation, honoring his legacy while evolving with the times. Chapter 6: The Cultural Impact of Margiela. Margiela's impact transcends fashion, influencing art, architecture, and pop culture. His minimalist aesthetic has become a symbol of intellectual sophistication, appealing to those who value thought-provoking design. The tabi boots, once polarizing, are now cultural icons, symbolizing the avant-garde spirit. Margiela's refusal to participate in the cult of personality has inspired a generation of creatives to prioritize substance over self-promotion. His work remains a touchstone for those who seek to challenge norms and embrace imperfection. Chapter 7. The Timeless Appeal of Martin Margiela. Martin Margiela's journey from the industrial landscapes of Genk to the pinnacle of fashion underscores the transformative power of vision and authenticity. His designs are not just garments, they are ideas, emotions, and provocations. Martin Margiela's legacy is a testament to the beauty of imperfection and the courage to defy expectations. As we conclude, we honor Martin Margiela's contributions not just to fashion, but to the broader cultural landscape. His work reminds us to look beyond the surface and find beauty in the unexpected. His philosophy will continue to inspire, challenge, and provoke long after the final thread has been stitched. If you've enjoyed this exploration of Martin's legacy and were inspired by the brand's unconventional story, consider subscribing to Fashion Source, a free weekly editorial providing you the latest in fashion, culture, design, and technology. Thanks again for your attention. Until next time, I am designer Malcolm. Stay curious and keep exploring the language of design. God bless.
Can't make a promise, but I do my best. 25 sitting on 25 racks. Just got started, and we ain't done yet. But a new crib, that's a goddamn flex. Sign that check. Told them last year that I've been up next. Can't take calls, but I send that text from way downtown. But it's